This is Lake Unknown. It's suspended in a hanging valley right above the Dark River, completely hidden from the outside world by a ring of cliffs. There are no trails in here and practically no information. I've been wanting to get in here and check it out for a while. In my previous video, I missioned in from Chinaman's Bluff for the first time. I went across the Dark River, through the bush and up the Beansburn, then off-piste up a dry creek bed. In this video, I came back in for a second trip to set up an overnight camp on the edge of the lake, explore the area and attempt some of the peaks nearby. This area was first explored by unnamed prospectors during the gold rush in the 1860s, and then sat virtually forgotten about well into the following century. Have a look at this map which I dug up from the 1880s. You can see parcels of land plotted right up the Dark River as far as the Rockburn. The Beansburn, Mt Nox and Mt Chaos are marked as well, but Lake Unknown was still unknown, and everything else beyond was still unexplored and just blank space on the map. I'm just about to arrive on the saddle overlooking Lake Unknown. Look at that. Just been missioning up the dry creek bed again, same route that I took in the previous video. It was a lot more difficult this time than last time. Last week we had a major rain event which just washed out the rivers, and the dry creek bed had a whole bunch of water that was dribbling over the rocks. It made everything slick. So I think last time I said there were 3 technical bits, but this time I counted 6. Also brought my old man in who is 72. I was thinking of bringing my missus in, and he said that if I did that she'd never forgive me and never come back. So apparently it's not as easy as I made it sound last time. But we're just going to make our way over there. Got the tent on the pack this time, set up the tent and spend a few days just exploring the area, trying to get a few mountains. There's Minos Peak just up this way, which is 2,000 meters. Over here is Mt Nox. That one might be quite hard to get because there's cliffs all over the other side, and I think you might be able to get to it if you go up to the Lake Unknown Falls at the end of the lake, then go up that way. But there's also Mt Chaos behind me over here. So just traversing through the tussocks along the side of the lake to get to the campsite down by the lake edge. It's about 5:30 now. Set up the tents, had something to eat. Got a long wait tonight, have a good long sleep. I should have plenty of energy tomorrow, and might try climb Minos Peak. You can see Mt Chaos up there, looks pretty gnarly at the top. Minos Peak is over here. That's one supposed to be a bit easier. It is higher as well though, but Mt Nox looks really cool. That's the lowest of the 3, but there's no good way of getting in there that I know of, at least, other than on the other side. And you might be able to go right down to the end there, drop down, check out the Lake Unknown Falls, and maybe you can get up around the side, but that's all like what if and maybe. No idea, you just got to go check it out. I was thinking you might just be able to make your way up here, but it looks like real shitty scrub. It's not tussock, so there's all this slab rock to navigate around, which would be doable. It's just the ground to go over. Looks like it's quite tough from this angle. You might have to get up there to have a look. Check this out, a really pretty stream flowing down from the waterfalls up here, straight down through here into the lake. Just spent the night in the tent. Had a relatively good night, pretty peaceful. Could hear the Kia around though, so I was hoping they wouldn't bother us. Plan today is to try and get up Minos Peak, which is this one up here, 2,000 meters high. I think the old man's gonna try and head out to the Lake Unknown Falls at the end of the lake down there. Unfortunately, we haven't got the sun on us. Sort of realized this morning that it's sitting behind this mountain here, Mt Chaos. So the whole other side of the lake's nicely illuminated and warm. And we've still got frost all over the ground down here and all over everything. The tents were covered in frost this morning, and it's not going to thaw out for a while. Just making it up into the first ridge line behind Lake Unknown and the campsite, about 100 meters above the lake. Already got stunning views looking straight out over here. You can see the tents, you can see where the lake drains out over there. Mount Earnslaw towering in the background. Still haven't got sun, but so hot, it's about time to drop this jacket. And there's a waterfall cascading down behind me. I had to finish this recording afterwards.
Because of the cold, the camera batteries keep dying and cutting me off. Just warming them up on my body. Up at about 1,250 meters now, so only 750 up to the top of Minos Peak. And like I was saying before I got cut off there, stunning view down on Lake Unknown. Probably the regular view, because most people come in from this side. Very few come up the saddle up the dry creek bed. Finally in the sun and heading up over this slab rock. Quite an easy route up.
wasn't too bad coming up down there. Where you're on the tussock it's fine, but there is a bit of scrub that you have to navigate. You're sort of balancing on top of it until a branch breaks and you fall half a metre through. Quite tough to pass short distances, but this is nice. Just keeping an eye out for ice on the rock face. Since it frosted last night there could be a bit of sheet ice, but with the sun it shouldn't take too long to dry out. Stunning views again over Lake Unknown. Such a beautiful area. I'm now up at just under 1500 meters. The zigzag up proved to be pretty good. Just going past another small mountain tarn here, and I'm going to see, it looks like I have to drop off down this other side, so I'm going to find out if I came the wrong way or not, because I don't know what the good way is yet, and if I get bluffed out here I might have to backtrack. What I thought was going to be cliffs has turned out to be quite a sizable lake, which I didn't even realize was here. An unnamed lake. Looks like it's just tussock up that way. Can't quite see a good route, but I suppose head up onto this sort of small saddle here, then head up straight up the rocks. Once you're up on this ledge of rock up here, reevaluate again. I'm up here at about 17-20 meters. From down there, it was a zigzag up through the bluffs. Never really quite knew which way was the right way. There's multiple ways to go, but you just sort of follow your nose, zigzag right up to that lake, came across the saddle, and from there at about 1600 meters, it's just been hard rock to walk straight up. Only about less than 300 meters from the summit, which is up there, and I feel pretty confident. You're just going straight up over this rock. Looks like I brought my micro spikes and ice axe for nothing. Not even that long ago there would have been permanent ice up here. In fact, you can see that all the rocks around here at about 1870 all have scrape marks on them. So I would guess this would have all been covered in ice only a few decades ago. Probably can check the old maps and have a look, see if it's marked. So this map here is from the 1970s and still had everything marked in the old imperial miles and feet. It's the first map I can find that has Lake Unknown actually marked, and is the first proper map of this remote wilderness. Minos Peak is marked here as Minos, and it doesn't actually show that there was permanent ice here at that stage. However, if you have a look at the Park Pass Glacier behind it, back then it went all the way down to below 5,000 feet, which is 1500 meters in modern measurements. If you have a look at the current satellite images, you can see that there's now a lake where the glacier once was. Then if you overlay it with aerial photography from the 1990s, which is the earliest I can find, you can see it was still all ice only back then. I'm traversing around the front of the mountain now, only about 80 meters below the summit just up here. The glaciers on Mount Head and over on the other side are starting to poke out from behind the crest of the hill. There's a layer of cliffs that I'm just got to follow along. Possibly I've taken the wrong way and I should have gone further out to that ridge line around the back, but you can't really see where you're going. It's like a maze, so you're just going to guess. Like up here there's a high point which I can't see beyond, and just before that there was another high point, so who knows if when I get to that high point I'm going to be stuck and I'm going to have to backtrack a long way. These cliffs here are looking a bit too steep to just rock climb straight up without ropes, but I'm looking for any opportunities for that as well. Stunning views from here though. You can see out to Lake Wakatipu, all the way over to Glenorchy. Looks like there's not a breath of wind on the lake. Would be good to go out kayaking today. Alright, it's looking like at this point here I am bluffed out. Can't go out down there any further or traverse around the side of there. Right down below me is that lake which I saw before, which I didn't know was there. So I've either got to go back or look at going straight up here, which, to be honest, is looking like it might be possible. Head up through this way. Yeah, I think I'm going to have a crack at that. Just attempted to climb up here. Got a good way up to there, but then decided to call it just because of the level of fall exposure. It looks like if I'd just been able to get above the bit of rock that's sitting here, there's a route up to the top, but sometimes you just got to call it. If it was closer to the ground, I would have just done it, but up here, not worth taking any risks, so I'm going to go back down and look for another route around. So I've just wasted a whole lot of time. I'm back down at 1850 now, and I can see that this is definitely the easy and safe route to get to the summit. Can't really see though from down there which is the better route, so I've just got to scramble up this rock here which isn't exposed and then find the easy route. Up at 1955, about the same altitude as where I turned around before, just getting onto the ridge. There is a cloud forming, so I might block my view. Yes, there's a view. Park Pass Glacier over there, Iceland Valley down here, and here's the summit of Minos Peak. It'd be really cool to spend a night in Iceland over there, then get up onto these glaciers behind. Probably be a summer job though. I can see from around here that practically any bit of rock which hasn't been touched by the sun has got last night's frost on it, and if there was water dribbling down it, it's just sheet ice now, so I've got to be kind of careful coming through here. Just below the summit again. Hope I don't get thwarted for a second time because I'm at the same altitude. There's enough gaps in between the frost to get a secure footing. Stoked because the easy way is up the south face. The south face is the one that doesn't get sun. And here is the summit. The cloud briefly came back and is now dispersed. Fabulous views over everything. Look at this down here. Park Pass Glacier, behind that's the Fond Saddle for the 5 passes. So you can pretty much see the entire route of the 5 passes from here. Well, obviously that part's blocked out by the Park Pass Glacier, but you can see that it goes right up here, around the back of that, then back down the Beansburn, and around Lake Unknown down there. I can think of few places I've been to which have better views than this here, right here. 2,004 meters of altitude by my watch, so just cracked 2,000. Wind starting to pick up, so I'll put my jacket back on. Stunning. The cold killed my camera battery again here, but I was trying to say that I'd climbed down to just 10 meters above where I was before, and I could see the rock which I turned around on. On my watch, it showed that I completed an almost perfect circle. I really need to get back in here and try that route again. Just came a bit further around here to have a look at the Iceland Valley again, and the rock burn. You can see all that slab rock that goes down there. It's pretty spectacular. That cloud just came in again, it's sort of on and off. And I'm pretty much heading back down to the campsite when that battery died again. I just went back down the way I'd come up, and it was a smooth trip back. Back down here at the lakeside, just had something to eat and packed up the tent. Nice and calm down here, but the sun's already gone behind the hill, and it didn't get sun here until about 1:30 in the afternoon, so the tent is still a little bit wet. We're going to head back up around this way and look for a campsite either on this high point over here or the next one over there. There's definitely a good camp spot in the saddle in between the high point just above the dry creek bed. I actually think that's probably been used before for people who are doing Mount Chaos. So my guess is that if you're in the right circles, the route up to Mount Chaos is probably up the dry creek bed, but there's next to no information online about Lake Unknown, so very few people come in here. Coming up on the Lake Unknown rock bibby, which is unmarked on the maps and not very well known. I just sort of came across it yesterday when we came up here, but it looks comfy enough, and someone's left a mat underneath some rocks here, which is thoughtful of them. I think you'd be perfectly fine here in a rainstorm. Even some firewood's been dragged up in here to dry out the next person who might need it. Just going over this awful scrub where you're pretty much balancing on top of it, and there's holes. You gotta really watch where you put in your step, where you fall right through it. On day 3 of the Lake Unknown trip, just changed camps last night, set up a camp down here. They got sun at about 7:20 yesterday morning, and then today the clouds have rolled in, but at least there's no frost. But I've just headed back up to this high point which I reached on the first trip, and I'm going to try and get over to the other end of the lake, to this second high point over here, and then see if I can descend down to where the waterfall is. It looks like there could be a whole lot of awful scrub to get down, but you'll only find out once you get over there, so that's the plan. Just reached a bit of collapsed cliff edge, which looks like it's primed to fall down into the Beansburn Valley at some stage. When there's an earthquake, we want to be right down there below that. Next obstacle right next to this collapsed cliff is there's some sort of ravine.
which you could climb right down and around. It would be hard work. It looks like it's collapsed down here as well though, so there might be a bridge across it. Just noting here that there is a cave, what looks like a cave going down here, which warrants further exploration. Something else to do. Finding these cracks that are just everywhere. I'm just about reaching this high point at the end of the lake, and some nasty looking weather is approaching from the beans burn. Light spitting at the moment, not too bad, but unfortunately that means we've got to be in a bit of a rush. Get up there, turn around, potentially descend back down there in the pissing rain, which won't be fun at all, down a not so dry creek bed. Looks like a nice day out towards Queenstown though. These rain clouds are just emptying here. Reaching the high point at the end of the lake now. View back down over the Dart River, all the way out to Lake Wakatipu. Nice day out there. Really glad I made it up this far, even though this rain that's coming in. One of my other goals of getting up here was to see if you could climb Mt Nox from this direction. I can't see yet if you can get down easily to the waterfall, but from the looks of things, it would be kind of tough going through the scrub, but it looks like there could be a route of tussock that goes all the way up there to that small sliver. I think on the other side of that circle, that stream, which can take you around the side again. Going up through those cliffs and that tussock wouldn't be for the faint of heart, but it might be possible. It's one of these things, you just got to try it to find out. Just trying to descend far enough to see where the exits the lake, but got to bear in mind that wind's really picking up, that storm cloud that's coming in. Yes, I can just see the exit down there now. So it looks like it's going to a crack in the rock, and it's supposed to tumble off 150 metres straight down there. It also doesn't look that hard to get down there, so if I had more time I'd be going right down there now. It doesn't look too difficult to get up the other side as well, like I was expecting. And there's good camp spots up here, which I saw before. Already planning out my next mission to get up Mt Nox. Should be able to get here in a day, easily camp here, and then try and smash Mt Nox the next day. Heading back to the tent now. The best route to reckon Mount Chaos. It's from the saddle above the dry creek bed, and then straight up the ridge. About to jump across this crack here. It goes down super deep. Now it makes you wonder if there's any moa bones down there, because anything that fell in would never be able to get back out. So there's a good chance if you went exploring there could be something interesting at the bottom of that. But you'd have to come up here with a rope and some gear and you might find nothing, you might find something cool. Back at the campsite, time to get the cooker on to get some coffee, then pack up and get out of here. So I've just got down to above the waterfall, and there's a line of cliffs that goes along here, and just up this side there's a ravine, so you can't go all the way around it because you come up to this high point here and there's a cliff that you can't really cross. Once you get past all of this stuff, it looks like there are two different routes which get you above the cliffs. We've taken one coming back down. Last time I didn't even see it was a problem. I just had a small bag on, the rock was dry, and just clambered up the tussocks that was up there. Didn't even count it was any problem. This time with big bags, it was quite a difficult obstacle to get over with a full drop on the other side. But I was looking around, there's only two routes that I can see so far, and neither of them are ideal. So just got back out after the second trip up to Lake Unknown and Minos Peak, but you can see exactly where we came down. And I was reading a trip report from the 1930s where one of the first parties came up the Beansburn.
And that battery cut out again. This is the article here, reported in the Evening Star in 1937, written by one of the first modern parties to come exploring up here after the gold rush during the previous century. When they were in the same location as I am here, they say, "From here it seemed possible to reach Lake Unknown by climbing up towards a dip in the skyline which would appear to be the position of an old outlet from the lake. It must always be remembered, however, when picking a route up through the forest-covered walls of these valleys, that trees can grow in places too steep for men to climb. Having reached Lake Unknown, most interesting rock climbs on Mt Nox and Mt Chaos, which have never been climbed from the side, would be possible." So it had been spotted back then. I'm just making this route a bit more well known. Check out this film project I made about the whole South Island. It's by far the biggest video project I've ever made, but wasn't very clickable on YouTube, so didn't do very well. Cheers.